We visit the past. We ponder our future as we exist in the here and now. At This Moment with Angela Black, Thursday evenings, Studio B on Revolution Radio.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
Ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
and I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome, everyone, to I Am Nature. Brian Porter, your host, is here, and also my producer, Angela Black. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing well, Brian Porter. How are you?
I'm just so excited. I've got this amazing guest. I love people who are making a difference, who are doing good things for the planet. And I got Jim Gale here. He's down in Costa Rica. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great, Brian and Angela. Thanks a lot for having me on today.
Wow, he's so trained. Listen to that excellent enthusiasm.
Oh, I mean, this guy's pumped. Well, I mean, what do you expect? He's eating the best food on the planet down there in Costa Rica.
Jealous. Yeah, I'm jealous.
I'm so envious of you, Jim.
Well, it's the happiest country in the world for a lot of good reasons.
Oh yeah, for sure. But hey, before we get into the interview, Jim, I just wanted to give Angela, my incredible producer, a chance to talk about her incredible guest coming on. He'd love your place. He's all over natural stuff. Who you got coming on your show tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern / 7 p.m. Pacific on my show, Studio B, at this moment, is pharmacist Ben Fuchs. And I just actually connected with him again today, so I'm really looking forward to discussing many things, the mythology, or not the mythology so much, but the myths of the pharmaceutical industry and the truths that he has learned over the course of working in that practice all these years. So we're going to be talking about diabetes, asthma, vaccinations, antibiotics, and natural ways to reverse these particular, afflictions. So it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, I've heard Ben a few times. He's really on the ball.
Yeah.
But I think he'll agree that, the solution to all these things is start eating good food.
That's correct. And he does exactly think that. So, yes.
I mean, if you're going to die, you should probably take some supplements or eat a lot of something extra. But, I mean, the bottom line, preventative healthcare is where it's at. And Jim Gale is one of the guys making it happen.
Super awesome.
Yeah. So, Jim, let's see. I see Serenity Gardens Eco Village. That's the name of your new project?
That is the name of our new project. We're in the mountains of southern Costa Rica with a community center that overlooks the Pacific Ocean from about 3,000 feet.
Wow. Can you see the ocean from there?
Oh, gosh. It feels like you can spit in the ocean from there.
You're that close?
Yeah, because the mountains go right into the water, so it's really close.
Wow. How far is it to drive down there or walk?
The drive is anything but direct. It takes me 24 minutes. I've timed it. It takes other people, 40 minutes. It's exactly 12.1 kilometers or about 8 miles, 7 miles.
I mean, I was in Costa Rica in 93. I went there for a trip. And I think the roads are better now than they were then. But, man, I would not advise anyone to go there without a 4-wheel drive. I mean, some of those back roads are pretty crazy.
They are definitely pretty crazy.
Yeah. But I like that. I like rough. I like tough.
Yeah, if you're from Iowa or Florida and you've never seen a hill, this might be a little bit of a surprise to you.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, well, let's get the website out there. Do you want to tell the great listeners we've got your website?
You bet. The website it's serenitygardensecovillage.com, and it's just spelled like it is.
I posted it in the chat, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Angela.
Of course.
And so that's the best way to get in touch with you if someone's interested in, exploring a relocation there or, a summer home or something like that?
Yes, and they can also email me directly at jimpgale@gmail.com.
Jim P. Gale, G-A-L-E.
Yes, that's J-I-M-P as in Patrick, Gale, G-A-L-E @gmail.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Get that contact stuff out there. We want people to, I think most people are going to be blown away by what you're doing down there. At least I certainly am. So let's get on to it. Now, I usually let people, like people to know, who they're dealing with, what's their kind of like education and work background. So what can you throw some of that at me?
Yeah, I've got a kind of a fun story. I was a C student at best in high school just because I was a wrestler, and so I had to get C's to be on the wrestling team. I graduated and moved to Hawaii, and backtracking a little bit, my college wrestling coach gave me some homework, and it was a sheet on goal setting, and I started writing my goals for the first time in my life. And I looked at it as homework, but by the end of that 2-hour goal-setting period, my life had changed dramatically. And I went from kind of an average wrestler, or below average, considering the room I was in, the college wrestling room I was in, and I ended up being a 4-time All-American and national champion. And I give credit to the goals. Wow. And that
what nation is that, Jim? Are you Native American?
Yes, yeah, I wrestled at MSU, Minnesota State University in Mankato, Minnesota.
Oh, cool! Because you didn't mention that you were from the States.
Yep. I'm from Minnesota. Grew up there till I was 24. Then I graduated from college, moved to Hawaii. I've lived in 45 countries, and Costa Rica is by far my favorite.
What? 45 countries?
Lived in 45 countries?
How could you live in 45 countries? That's incredible.
Well, okay, so maybe that's a stretch. I've visited and or lived in. I've taken several trips where I just left. One on a $10 a day budget, and then another one after I'd made a few bucks. And the $10 a day trip was the most fun, actually.
Wow, that's quite something. So did you? So you were a college? Did you try to make the Olympic team in wrestling?
I did go to the Olympic tryouts a couple times, had a lot of fun, but by that time, when I was done with college, my head wasn't in it. I was ready to move on. My knees were ready to move on as well. Yeah. So it was a heck of a run, though, and I learned a lot.
Incredible. I mean, that's incredible to be the top in any category, whether it's municipal or college, or you don't have to make the Olympics to be a great athlete.
Well, I give a lot of credit to my coaching. I had some of the best coaches in the world, including Dan Chandler, who was the Olympic coach, and a lot of Olympians around me, and that really helped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything you try to excel at, it helps you in further endeavors in your life, right?
It sure does.
Gives you that focus, that determination. That's, I'm all for competitive sports. I mean, I don't consider myself, a hard-nosed capitalist, but I believe in excelling and pick something to excel at, and it's good for you.
Yeah, I love real capitalism as opposed to the corrupt capitalism that's out there today. But goal setting, I think goal setting is the key because like I said, I was average. And goal setting makes the difference. It changes the mind so drastically that everybody should go write their goals when this is over.
There you go.
I'm already on it.
Good stuff.
You're already on it, Angela.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Sometimes it's so simple, and when it's reiterated to a person, set some goals. It's like, oh yeah, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, everything comes from simple planning, right? Everything simple is what works best.
I believe in the law of attraction. If you put it out to the universe and you visualize it and you get emotional about it, then that causes action. And action is the key to results.
Well, yeah, I'll agree with you on that one too. So let's see. So we got your background now. So how long you been doing this eco-village development stuff?
I moved it to Costa Rica 10 years ago. And I came down here as a really dumb gringo who I was arrogant. I really thought, because I had sold a company in the United States, done pretty well, and I really thought that I was smart. And I got to admit it, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I kind of thought I was smarter than these people that had really less resources than I did, financial resources. And I learned my lesson, and I got my butt kicked all over the place. In business deals and just in dealing, because the cultures are different. My arrogance was quickly turned to education, and that helped a lot. So the first few years, they say if you want to leave Costa Rica with $1 million, bring two. Yeah. And that was my experience. I learned a ton, and I softened my ego, kind of let go. I turned from a type A personality more to a type B, although I'm still kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't kid yourself on that one.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah, I go back and forth.
Well, I mean, it's a cultural difference down there, right? It's much more laid back. The work ethic is different. It's much more, I like it. I think I was down in Costa Rica for 10 days. I certainly am no expert like you are on living there, but I like the vibe down there, man.
Oh, it's the people here. I was very lucky to meet an amazing woman about 10 years ago. We were married 7 years ago, and I've, of course, become part of her family. And the family structure here and the structure of taking care of each other and the structure of community is alive and well.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I have another friend down there, Bruce, and he said, he's lived a fair number of places too. He's been around the world. He's traveled a lot. And he said, he too thinks Costa Rica is pretty amazing. Yeah,
it is. Now, a lot of gringos come down and they do not integrate. They do not, they stick in their little gringo communities. They go to gringo bars, they this and that. That doesn't work necessarily. I mean, for some people it does, but it's a lot better to become part of the community.
Well, not if you're in business.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. I've heard stories of big businesses going down there and getting swamped too. Getting setting up a big project, it doesn't get finished because they don't know how to deal with the locals. They don't know how to deal with the laborers. Are there unions down there? I don't know if it's a unionized work environment or what.
It's not unionized, but I think the social structure is more unionized. So I think it's more of a top-down, government-down union than it is in individual unions. Yeah.
So working with the government, that's another learning curve?
That's one that I don't think there's any end to. It's not structured like we're used to up north, where you can go somewhere and get something done in 20 minutes. They say you can get 2 things done a day here.
2 things done a day.
Yeah, if you've got a car, a license thing, or a bank thing, or any kind of cell phone thing, it's about 2 things a day is typical.
Okay. And why is that?
Because the lines for things like you go to the driver's license place in San Jose, and they're shut down because their printer's out of ink. So then you drive home, which is 2.5 hours, and then you go back the next day and something happened and they're shut down again. So you might have to go 3 times to get your driver's license renewed. And you can't call ahead because there's nobody answering the phones. So those types of things people here are so used to. It's really relaxed. It's either relaxed or miserable. And I choose to be relaxed.
Well, you meet lots of nice people in line, right?
You meet lots of, see, that's the thing. It's so hard it used to be so hard for me to get my head around it. And then about 5 years ago, I had a couple experiences and I decided just to look around and see the beauty and talk to the people. The people are so friendly. You could be in line talking. I mean, there's one story, a friend of mine, his car tire went flat and they got out of the car, middle of the day, and the people that lived right there on the highway near there, the kids came out and changed their tire while the people, Val and Marina, went inside and had coffee and donuts.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I like to hear those kinds of stories.
Yeah, they're very common.
Yeah, if people, when they see something's got to get done and it's, they're there to help you.
Oh my gosh, we had a little accident about a year ago where this guy tipped his car over and we were in the middle of nowhere. Like I think there was maybe 3 houses within a half mile. I don't know where everybody came from, but within 20 minutes, there was probably 15 people helping to lift the car up. I still don't know where they came from. It was amazing.
Wow. That is so cool. And there was no tow truck. It was just people helping you?
Yeah, no, a tow truck would have taken a while. It was just people, and they were leveraging things, and they were doing this and that, and getting ropes and pulleys. Pretty soon, the car was on its wheels and driving away.
What? You can drive after it went over?
Oh, yeah, it just tipped. It was on a really steep hill, and it just tipped. It was pretty scary, but nobody got hurt, but it looked like they were going to. Anyway, it was crazy.
Okay. So you've got one company down there?
I've got several companies, but the one that I'm kind of talking about the most right now is the Serenity Gardens Eco Village, which we've built 10 houses in the last couple of years. We've got 5 more starting. The company previous, we built 61 homes in about 4 years. Okay, and that was your learning curve project, right? That was my learn. It's an amazing project. It's called Osa Mountain Village, and it's an amazing piece. It's about 700 acres from 2,000 to 3,000 feet, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. You can see waves breaking, and it's got about 80% primary and secondary rainforest with loads of animals, including big cats, 4 types of monkeys, and all that stuff. And yeah, that was a lot of learning curve on that one. That's my first intentional community.
Well, how did you find that hunk of land?
When I sold my company, my mortgage company in Minnesota, I was looking for something else to do. And I asked some realtors, local realtors, to start looking. And I told them I wanted a big piece of land with mostly jungle, because I love jungle and I love nature. And that's what I was provided, a lot of different options.
Okay, so did you, now there's a different thing down there with land ownership. They call it impresario or something like that. Is that what you've done, or did you actually put title on the land?
We have title. There's 3 different kinds of ownership here. There's legal rights, which is what you mentioned, which is somebody who's lived on a piece of land for many years and they've never went through the legal process of getting title. Because it's kind of expensive if you're a farmer and you just don't have that kind of money around. That's basically rights of use. Then there's concession land, which is the first 200 meters from the mean high tide line. In other words, along the ocean and along the big rivers. The first 50 meters is public for everybody, and the next 150 can be owned with concession rights. And then everything other than that is titled, normal, kind of fee simple land.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So nobody can own land on a waterway or on the ocean?
Not unless it was grandfathered in from many, many years ago. I think it's at least 3 decades since they've allowed that.
Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. So then there's everyone can get access to this land for the most part, all over the.
Yes, all beaches are public, and all waterways have rights for everybody.
And this is a government. This has been in place for like as long as Costa Rica has been a country. How old is Costa Rica?
Well, I know that in 1948 or 9, they abolished their army, and they spend that money now on social services and an amazing healthcare system and public transportation.
Yeah, I hear it's really cheap, eh? Public transportation.
It's really cheap. A couple hundred colones, which is less than $1. In fact, I go to San Jose from here, and I think it's $6 for a 2.5-hour beautiful bus ride.
Nice. So they believe in public transportation versus everybody having a car.
Yeah. In fact, they make it kind of difficult to have a car. Cars here, I think it's one of the most expensive countries in the world to buy a used car. You can get a 10-year-old car here. Sometimes they're $15,000, $20,000, where in the States they might be $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah, but things don't rot down there. Like it's sort of like Cuba. The climate is very friendly to cars and bodies.
I would say it is more so than where I'm from in Minnesota. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it's not hard to get a 30-year-old vehicle down there. To buy one, it's in pretty good shape.
Well, you know what? Actually, the people I know who buy the older cars, they have so many headaches. Every 6 months or 3 months, something's going out, and you know, it's a debate whether you buy new or old. Here, it seems to be a lot better if you can to buy new.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you picked Costa Rica. Now, when you went there, did you know what a great country it was, or was it sort of like just a good guess on your part?
No, I've spent a lot of time in different countries, and I've done a lot of research, and I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think I was going to move here full time. And then, of course, I met my wife, and that was that.
Is she local, or is she what's her background?
Yeah, she's an attorney. She grew up in Costa Rica, and she's a tica.
A tica.
A tica is what they call themselves. Costa Ricans call themselves ticos or ticas. If you're a woman.
Tico. Yeah, tica. Yeah. Okay, the feminine version of tico. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not familiar with that term. Cool.
Sounds like somebody else we know.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Inside joke.
Yeah. It's interesting. We have a mutual friend that's listening right now. Bruce McDonald is out there. So I just wanted to say hi to Bruce.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, actually, it's through Bruce that I met Jim.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and he married a lovely lady down there. And then with that, remember the story of, do you remember, Joubert, Kasia Joubert, and how she married into Finhorn?
I do remember, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of cool too. So yeah, it's good. It's perfect. Why not marry somebody who, is works for you in your life? That's nothing wrong with doing that.
Oh, that's an amazing thing, yeah.
And having a lawyer, I mean, down there, like you say, it's not the easiest thing down there to get a lawyer, is it?
You know, it's not. The professional services here are different. They're more relaxed on the details. And when you're dealing with Costa Ricans, it's fine. It's not a litigious society. In fact, the system itself really stops people from creating lawsuits that are frivolous. So I would say it's 90% better than the U.S. in that way.
Yeah. And, I mean, people down there are just, would you say they're on average more honest people than, say, in the U.S.?
They are. I think it's kind of like small town America, unless you get in the big city maybe, but I don't really like the big city. So I'm kind of in small town America type of feel where, a lot of people have the doors open and things like that out in the country. Now, along the beaches and stuff, you've got to watch because there's people that'll steal things out of cars and so on. But up here, it's I feel more secure or as secure as anywhere I've ever lived in the world.
Right. So what places in the world have you been that you didn't like?
Karachi, Pakistan, I didn't like. Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Kenya. I didn't like those countries. I didn't feel comfortable or safe. In fact, I felt downright scared a couple times.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you like a traveler at that time, or was it related to business?
I was a backpacker. and just traveling on a low budget. And this is about 15 years ago. The good thing about it was I hid in my room, and especially in Pakistan, most of the day, and I had all these books with me, and I really dove into books on personal growth and development and goal setting, and that's really what changed my life. I was dead broke, basically, and I had a goal to have $3 million in 3 years, but I didn't know what I was going to do, but it worked. It was crazy.
Oh, really?
So we got a little Anthony Robbins here on our hands.
He's one of my favorites.
Nice. I totally got that connection. So probably, do you, I'm sorry to interrupt, Brian. Do you do any motivational speaking? Just a quick question.
I have, and I love doing it because I've learned so much as a C student. I think I can relate to a lot of kids out there who are bored to death with school. And if I focused on this directly, I'd focus on teaching seniors and between the ages of 16 and maybe 24, 25.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Very interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm learning more and more about Jim I didn't know. So this is cool. So how did you make $3 million in 3 years?
Well, I got back to Minnesota, and I was at a bar, and I met this guy, Jason. He was talking about his company. I'd kind of known him previously, but he said, you should come work for me. And it was in a mortgage business. There's no salaries or anything, so the more the better. And for him, and I went to work for him, great guy, and he taught me the ropes. I worked for him for 3 or 4 months, and then decided I wanted to kind of grow bigger because I had big goals. And then I went to 2 more companies, and I was in the business for 11 months before I started my own company. I had to fib a little bit and say I was in the business for 2 years on my application. But I started my own company, and I changed. I had this idea that came to me about changing the structure or the nature of the business. And what I did was created a per loan fee instead of a percentage. And we attracted 480 loan officers in 3 years. So from me to 480 people in 3 years, and we did about 1.3 billion in volume. And then I got out of the business because the longer I was in it, the more I realized it was pure fraud from start to finish. I mean, it was just a joke. So I had to get out.
So what years would have that been?
That would have been 99 through 2002.
Okay.
And you know, I say pure fraud. Of course, there's some great loan officers who do it by the book. But in that time, the no-doc loans, where the bank representatives would come in and show us how to create documents that were stated income, stated asset. I don't know. It was really an interesting time.
Yeah, that was a time when pretty much anyone who came in could get a loan.
We had a 19-year-old gal get a $700,000 loan who'd really never worked in her life.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, we'll get back to you soon, Jim. And we're just going to break here, folks. Hey there, folks. We're back with I Am Nature. I'm your host, Brian Porter, and I've got my extra special guest, Jim Gale, with me. Are you back, Jim?
Yes, I am. Thanks again for having me.
Oh, well, my pleasure. I mean, I didn't realize you had all this cool kind of like background and that you were a successful businessman in the mortgage business. And we were just chatting about that, and then we had to go on break, so maybe we should pick it up there. So how did you get out of this business, or what happened?
Well, I'd like to first start by saying I've probably had more failures than most people by far, because I try a lot of stuff. I just can't help but I like to keep going and try stuff. If it doesn't work, I change directions a little bit. So in the mortgage company, I had this idea, which was really a bad idea. The company was kicking butt, 480 loan officers, and everything was fun. In fact, the contracts were pretty interesting. A loan officer would come and say, I want to work for your company. So I'd say, okay, write down on a white piece of paper, and I'd give them a piece of paper. I said, write down what we agreed to, because I didn't want to write it down. I'm a terrible writer. And the person would write down what we agreed to. I would sign it. I'd give it to them. That was our contract. So right before I left the company, because I wanted to do other things. I actually started a foundation called the Wisdom Foundation. And my goal was to get the teachings that I had learned from all those books, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Dennis Waitley. I wanted to get that taught in every high school. So I had kind of something I was passionate about. Anyway, so my idea was this. I said to my partner, and one of my best friends who took over the presidency of the company, I said, let's hire an attorney to handle all of the, the contracts and the paperwork and the all this stuff. And so we did. Stupidest thing we've ever done, because the attorney quit talking to people like people. Instead, the attorney hid behind the law. And instead of, if somebody would have a complaint, the attorney wouldn't speak back to the person as a person. The attorney would cite some legal reference. Well, within a year, or probably even 6 months, our top 20% of producers, half of them left, which is a huge percentage of our business right off the bat. And so I learned a lot about handing over businesses, and everybody who's starting up a business should know this. Never have a typical attorney be on your board and help with creative processes. That's just my opinion, but in my experience of life, attorneys have a different function, and it's a very valuable function. It's just not in creating businesses. It's in protecting them.
If I may interject, I married an attorney, and I have to concur completely.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. It's something to, take it from me. I've already lost a major company because of this. So and Angela agrees. So I think we got a consensus. Anyway, so I came back after the company started failing. I bought a little boat and I was living in the Bahamas. And I came back and I said to the main people, including my best friend who wasn't for years and now he is again, I said, you either have to buy me out or I'm going to have to let you all go. I didn't say it quite that nicely. And they decided to buy me out. And then right after that, the company, within a year or so, the company failed. And so they're still paying on the debt. But I didn't get all the money, and it was quite a big loss. But at the same time, it was a heck of a learning lesson.
Oh, okay. So, but you did somehow escape with $3 million, you said.
Yeah, it was silly money while it was going. Yes, it was a good run.
Yeah.
To say the least. It was fun.
Okay. So now let's get back to this great, you got this first village going. What's it called again? The Eco Village?
Serenity Gardens Eco Village in southern Costa Rica.
Your first one.
That's Osa Mountain Village. And we built 61 houses. We have 2 tilapia ponds. We have a shrimp pond. We've got 2 chicken areas, one for egg birds and one for meat birds. We've got a goat area, a pig enclosure, and we've got thousands. We planted 4,000 fruit trees with about 90 variety. We use permaculture. I know you know what permaculture is, but for those of you who don't know what permaculture is, it is one of the answers to the problems facing the world, which I believe are local organic food production.
A solution, you mean? Yeah.
Solution. One of the solutions is resourcefulness and providing food locally, which can be done in just about any climate.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we've completely messed up our food production systems, and it's creating all sorts of problems, like from disease. Of course, the medical establishment loves it because it's creating a lot of work for them. But if you want to stop seeing your doctor every year or every twice a year, and especially in the U.S. where you have to actually pay for it, up here in Canada, a lot of stuff is covered through the government. But down there, it's expensive to go to the doctor.
Up there it is, absolutely. Right?
In the U.S. In the U.S.
Yeah.
I think Costa Rica, is it more socialized, the medical system there?
Oh, it's amazing here. A couple years ago, I had an infection in my leg, and I walked into the emergency room at 11:45 at night. I was out in 45 minutes, and I had all the meds in my hand, whatever it was, antibiotics. It was all free. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's socialized down there. Do you have a little card, like a credit card?
Yeah, my wife, does, yes.
Yeah. So but do you have to be married to someone? Do you have to be a Tico or a Tika to get access to this system?
You do not. You can come down. You pay a little more if you're not, but it's like our family pays around $90 a month, and we've got a 5-year-old girl. It's amazing, and it's good coverage. Now, if we still went to the private to have my daughter, we went to the kind of the most expensive private clinic in our town, and it was $2,600 for an emergency C-section instead of $30,000.
Yeah. Well, the cost of labor down there is a lot less. I mean, that's a huge factor too, eh?
It's a huge factor, and even I think these private clinics are even subsidized, but I'm not sure. It was a great value. Because
the U.S. pays their doctors so well that we lose a lot of our graduates from Canada down to the U.S. And in fact, they're actually having riots of medical students in Quebec because of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, literally, right? I mean, they're protesting vehemently because they're paying a lot for their education, and then they're not getting any money. And not everybody wants to move to the U.S., when they graduate. I guess a lot of people like Quebec and want to stay there, and it's a beautiful province. I can't blame them. So, it's there's a lot. Like the lesson here is, folks, is that the world is incredibly diverse, and things are done differently in many different places.
Yeah.
And what you're learning is that Costa Rica is doing a lot of things right.
They really are. They protect about 24 or 25% of their total land mass is in parks and cannot be touched. And then another 20-some% is not technically in parks, but because it's primary or secondary forest, it also cannot be touched or cut. So that's almost 50%. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's been brought up on a few of my other shows, is that they actually have a coral reef. I think it's on the west, is it the west side? I'm not sure. I think it's the west side in the ocean, and they've declared it a living being, so it cannot be exploited.
Oh, that's
so they're right in with the rights of nature movement. Did you hear about that?
Well, I did. What I just heard about recently was they just took this area, which is the biggest mangrove in Central America, and they just created another national park, which has got some people who live there, especially a couple of developers, kind of up in arms. But it's a no-brainer. It had to be done, and the country's doing the right stuff.
Okay, so you got this first. I just want to, people to know what you've done, because you've done some amazing stuff here. So I want to spend a bit more time on the first project before we get to your new one. So how is this thing managed? Like, how is all this food being, the vegetation managed, all these animals? How does that work?
Okay, it works by dues. So the people who come in, they pay a certain amount of money every month. It's like $150 for a lot owner and up to $200 for a villa owner, and they get all the food that they can eat. They can go pick and eat at no cost. Now, the thing that we made a mistake on many years ago when we started this is we kept talking about all the food production, and some people thought that we were going to serve the food or make it more accessible. I mean, if you want a meal, there's always a meal to be had between the tilapia and the chickens and the fruits and the veggies. But you might have to walk a couple hundred meters or yards, and you might have to pick it yourself. And some people don't like to do that, and they'd rather complain. Now, that's one of the things that we learned, and we made adjustments.
Okay. So,
sounds silly,
but who takes care of does it just grow wild, or is there any maintenance involved with the permaculture garden, or all the animals and the husbandry and all that stuff? Who does that?
That's a great question regarding the growing wild. Now, some of the stuff is done in permaculture design, which means that they take a bunch of plants and put them together in the same little mini ecosystem. And those plants support each other. So you've got a flowering plant that attracts the beneficial insects, and you've got rooting plants, and you've got the layers of crops that all work together. And then the other things like lettuces and things like that are more like the salad and garden things, those take a little more maintenance. But relatively speaking, it's not much, and there's a year-long growing season down here, so it's relatively easy.
Right. But do you have gardeners, or do the people that live there do the work?
That's another great question. So what I anticipated when we started this thing was that the people that lived there and at OSA would chip in. But what happened, the first batch of people we kind of attracted, they really didn't want to, and that's fine. I'm not much of a gardener myself. So the dues cover I think we have 5 full-time gardeners that the dues cover their payments, their salaries.
Okay. And you've got people taking care of the fish too.
Yeah, well, the fish, the good thing is we've got lots of water and it's all gravity fed. So the fish, there's really nothing to do for them. Just make sure the pipes are flowing water.
And it's all local water. It's all fresh water.
Yeah, it comes out of springs that are in the mountain, the jungle above us.
Beautiful. Are there any natives nearby?
There are, well, we've got several Costa Ricans, but I think you might be talking about the more indigenous people from, there are not real close. I think it's an hour drive to the Baruca area where the Baruca folks live. And then there's a couple others that live in the mountains, but they're quite a few hours away.
Right, but you're not bordering with any reserves.
No, we're not. I do have a backup on the water system because water is such a big topic now, especially with all the stuff going on in the West Coast. Our water comes from a spring and it gets gravity fed on 2 different systems. One system goes to it's an irrigation system. It goes to all the fruit trees and gardens and it goes through the tilapia pond and it collects nutrients. And then the overflow from the tilapia pond goes down another couple hundred feet to where our gardens are, and we use tilapia pond water to water our gardens. It's amazing.
Perfect. So it's got the fertilizer from the fish in the water.
Exactly, which is an amazing fertilizer.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is aquaculture, but it's outdoors, not indoors.
Yep. It's open loop, grand aquaculture, like big picture aquaculture.
Beautiful. And did you set this up yourself or did you hire a permaculturalist?
Both. I love ideas. And I love kind of big picture ideas, but we also hired permaculturalists because there are some real experts here and the soil here actually sucks in some parts. And so you have to do a little bit of work at the beginning to make the soil, suitable.
Right. So you had to add nutrients, minerals, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we've got MAMA, which is mountain microorganisms that we produce on site. And there's also biochar, which is burning of the right materials. And then we use that charcoal in the soil. And then we put leaves on top and other bananas and things like that, banana leaves. And we let it sit and bake for a couple months. And boom, you've got great soil.
So are you growing bananas on site too?
Oh, we've got so many bananas and bananas, plantains, papaya are kind of our mainstay. Those are a no-brainer in any system that can grow bananas and plantains. You should just max them out. Wow.
So, and it sounds to me like you got more food and fish that you could ever eat on your site. Is that true?
Yeah, especially once the fruit trees come to fruition. Right now, they're about 5 years old, and they're producing at probably 10 to 20%. In the years to come, we're going to have way more food than we can eat.
Okay. So it takes a while for them to become, to hit their max producing capacity.
Yeah, 5 to 8 years, depending on the fruit and depending on the nutrients we give them. Fruit trees that don't get taken care of, they might take 15 years or 20 years to produce. And it depends on the species, of course.
So, but right now, this project is pretty much finished and you're not really, are you still connected to it in some way financially? Or are you completely, is that kind of running on its own?
Both. I am connected to it financially. I have more shares than anybody else in the project. So I'm very supportive of the project. It's an amazing place. At the same time, I have moved on. My goal, and I mentioned this a little bit ago, was dehydrated food and creating processing centers for local dehydrated food. So, that's what I'm really passionate about.
Okay, well, that's another, like you're into all sorts of cool things. We'll get to that one in a little later.
As long as you didn't mention dehydrated water, I'm okay.
We were trying to work on that one yesterday. Yeah. It didn't pencil out.
I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
But back to the communities, the question came up, how many people live there? We have 61 homes built, and at Osa Mountain Village, about 20% or so live on site in their houses. The rest are vacation rental people, or a lot of folks had bought for kind of a fallback or a safety net. In other words, probably 60% of our owners think that the economy is unsustainable and will collapse. And so those folks they've got a great place to come if it does, and if they can get out.
In the U.S.?
Yes. Or Russia or Canada. We've got a lot of Canadians as well.
Oh yeah. But what's the breakdown in terms of nationality on this 61 homes? What would you say?
I would say it's, let me see, 50% U.S., 30% Canadian, and then the other 20 would be other. Several Costa Rican families own. Spain and Russia.
Has anyone bought and sold?
Yeah. Oh gosh, quite a few people.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been going for 5 years, and there are a lot of people who've went broke in the last 5 years, and this was their only asset. And so we've had to have quite a few people that have bought and sold.
Oh, okay. So are you lending them money to buy in there too? Are you doing mortgage business down there?
We aren't. What a lot of people are doing is self-directing their IRA and 401k, and they're using that to buy in down here, which is really neat.
Well, talk a bit more about that, because I don't think we can. I'm not sure we can do that in Canada, but I think that's some pretty progressive stuff going on with mortgage interest and that kind of stuff. So maybe you could explain that to the listener.
Okay, I think in Canada, what do you have, an RSVP or something like that?
RSP.
RSP. Okay, they might be changing the laws on that so you can self-direct. But in the United States, anybody who's got an IRA can self-direct it and not pay any taxes, and they can use their money as they choose as long as they have an administrator that does it, like Advanta or Entrust. Or you can go on, I think it's selfdirectedira.org is a company where if you want to do it yourself and get your own checkbook for your own money, it's a pretty neat system.
Okay, so you're saying they take their retirement money and then they invest, or they buy down there with you, or other people?
That's correct. And so they get their money out of the stock market and they put it into food-producing land.
Yeah, which Gerald Celente says is your best investment going forward. One of your best.
Yep. I just listened to him.
Gerald Celente.
I do.
A lot of the listeners know the trends forecaster. I try to get him on, but he's booked up like for a year or so. It's hard to get him on, but anybody can go to his site. But yeah, he's been bullish on good farmland for a long time. The problem is in the U.S., most of the farmland has been tainted with chemicals, GMO, and whatnot. So it's not easy to get good land in the U.S.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're saying they're ruining the soil in the U.S. at 10 times the rate of renewal. In China, it's at 40 times the rate of renewal. So we're mining soil. That's completely unsustainable. And not to mention the thing that you just mentioned, which is the tainting with the pesticides. There's a lot of things about soil. Permaculturalists say soil is our biggest problem. We've got a lot of biggest problems, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but for the smart people, I'm really impressed that there's people who see the writing on the wall and are making preparations.
Yeah, and that number is growing. Thanks to people like you and Angela and this whole network, people are waking up. And I personally think this next election cycle is going to be big for people waking up. Yeah,
I think my prediction is that when they can no longer afford the food stamp program in the U.S., it's not going to be too pretty.
Yeah, well, that was about 10, 15 years ago when they couldn't. And printing money is a whole nother story. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, when they can't get any money, when they can't buy their own debt anymore, that's going to be interesting. But anyways, I don't want to go there right now. My show is all about solutions.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Brian. That's what I'm all about too.
Yeah, offering people who are savvy. And now. My next question. So you think Costa Rica is one of the best places to go for an eco-village? based upon all the factors, climate. I'll tell you right now, man, the climate in Canada, and I know this in the U.S. too, is just like a friggin' roller coaster. Yeah. I mean, last week or a few days ago, it was so hot you couldn't go outside. This morning, it was freezing.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane up here. But I hear the weather in Costa Rica is pretty much very, very steady, very moderate.
Yeah, you've got your seasons, and within those seasons, you pretty much know what you're going to get. There aren't hurricanes here. In fact, the last one was on the East Coast, I don't know, 40 years ago or something. It's almost never, and it's because of, I guess, the trade winds or whatever. But the good news is we don't get big winds. We do get a lot of rain once in a while, like an amazing amount of rain.
All right. So we're coming up on another break, Jim. So we'll get back to you soon. Thanks for joining us, folks, on I Am Nature. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to I Am Nature, folks. I'm your host, Brian Porter. We have a great guest with us, Jim Gale, but this is the time in my show when I usually talk about the importance of supporting Revolution Radio, web address freedomslips.com. You know, we all benefit from you guys listening to us, and I'll tell you, this show is doing really well in the ratings. I appreciate all my listeners that are coming in and picking up all these great tips on eco-villages and whatnot. We really need to take seriously, the challenges that we face on this planet, and I think I'm offering some awesome solutions to you, people that are doing good things. And this week we got an American on it. This is my first believe this is my first American guest who's developing an eco-village. So I'm really proud that I found somebody. And but we've got to support the station. You know, you've got lots of options on the website. If you go to, let's just get there right now. Yes, you go to support us on the site. You've got lots of options. You've got the single donation box. You've got the regular support box, the monthly support club. You've got the seeds, folks. There's no end of ways that you can support this station. And we value your support. We're the largest listener-supported site on the planet. And it's because of the great listeners that we've been able to get there. So I just encourage you to continue to offer your support to the station. Everybody here, for the most part, works for free, and therefore we're all doing our bit, and we just ask you to do yours as well. So now we're also going to let Angela in on this. Now, Angela, can you give? We want people to call in and ask Jim questions. They might be interested in his eco-village and how to get in on it. So, Angela, can you give the listeners the phone in line?
Absolutely. The call-in number for Studio B is area code 310-421-4053. I'm going to read that out again. 310-421-4053. 4053, and you can call in. You can also call in Skype. Basically, I have a Skype number, so if that call doesn't work, just put it in the chat or something like that. You can also find me on Skype as This Blue Monkey. I'm hosting the call today, so if you can find me on Skype and ask a question that way, and or we can drag you in, etc., etc. So there you go. That's the info.
Yeah, and ask questions in the chat room, and Angela's usually watching that. Mm-hmm. So that'd be great too. So, Angela, you had a question for our guest?
Yeah, it's kind of like a 9,000 part question, but I'll try and make it short. Okay, so you know me. All right, so here's my question to Jim, and welcome back to the show, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, great. So as we know, you were in Costa Rica. You're an American in Costa Rica. It sounds like some type of American werewolf in London kind of a thing. But anyway, so I'm wondering, so your function, at least a function that you provide is to design an eco-village. Is that, am I correct?
Yes, the team that I work with can design an amazing eco-village, especially around the permaculture principles.
Okay, and then that is something you actively are doing right now in Costa Rica. Yes?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And so how does that process begin? I guess they can go to your website, serenitygardensecovillage.com. And so how does that process begin? Somebody finds you, and then let's say, you all agree that yes, we're going to work together and my team is going to help you design your eco community. So Can you just walk me through that process and then just give me a ballpark time frame of all of that? That would be great.
Betcha. Yeah, you betcha. Now, if somebody wants to hire our team to design an eco-village, wherever it is in the world, the principles are pretty much the same. The methods are different, like soil amendment and what kind of crops and things like that. But the whole process would probably take about 6 months, and it would start out very part-time with here they're called plano surveys, land surveys, topography studies, and things like that, which are recommendations that we would give to the landowner or the developer. And then at some point, we'd come in with a team of people, including permaculture specialists, and we would tell them exactly where to put certain things and why.
Okay, wow. And then who starts the building process after you've given them all this information? Do they build it? Do you have people that you offer who build it?
Everybody's got a different idea on that. It's really up to the developer. I will sure give them my input, which is kind of vast. I've built a lot of homes, and I've also recommended a lot of other people. It really depends on the area and a lot of factors. But yeah, we can give really solid input on that.
Great. All right. And I guess my last question would be, so what is the type of home that you are most fond of building in, say, your area? I mean, what is the most effective home style?
Home styles is something and a lot of people talk about, and then when they get right down to it, after looking at costs and all the factors, most people have eco-friendly ideas that are mixed into a more standard home. Now, we love to promote earth bag houses, bamboo houses, earth ship houses, all the completely renewable, I guess you call them, houses or eco-friendly houses. But we don't make people build those. We just offer ideas. And so therefore it's up to the people. And after they look at all the factors, most people kind of do a mixture, a little bit eco-friendly with some concrete and some steel.
So how many different designs of homes do you have, say, in your first project, your first development?
30, probably between 25 and 30.
Really?
Yeah. The first 45 villas, of those 45 villas, there was only about 5 or 6 different styles, but then all of the houses are custom.
Yeah, so it's not cookie cutter kind of development. Everyone's unique looking.
One phase of the first development, Osa Mountain Village, is cookie cutter, and the rest is custom.
Okay. Now your new development, Serenity Village, it's you're doing it a bit differently. How would you explain to the listener how you're doing it differently?
We started with a lot of history and a lot of knowledge, and we took a lot of lumps. I personally made some wrong decisions through ignorance, and I then studied eco-villages. In fact, you mentioned Finhorn. There are some good models out there to copy. And in one case, we had investors in one pool, and we had residents in the other pool, and there was only a little bit of crossover. Well, that created a kind of divide. And what I would suggest, if anybody out there is thinking about doing an eco-village, even on a tiny scale, like I love the idea of taking 6 acres and putting 5 houses on it and a community center in the middle and all the food production you need. That's kind of my favorite model. But going back to this idea is now at Serenity Gardens, every owner gets a share of the company that owns the free and clear asset, which is 170 acres of land. And it includes the community center, it includes thousands of fruit trees and so on. All the common area is owned by everybody. Then the individual lots are being titled and owned fee simple by the individual who owns that lot. So in other words, it's one group. It's the same group. There's not a group of investors over here and a group of residents on a separate page. We're all the same group.
Okay, whereas at the other place, it's more individual-based ownership.
Yeah, at the other place, we started with a dream of creating the most amazing community in the world, and we got investors, and then we used that money to pay off the land and attract individual owners. and that has created a little bit of a divide. But the next place, at Serenity Gardens Eco Village, we are one group. Investors and owners are the exact same people.
Okay. So how's that going? How's that project going?
It's going great. We just had a big community meeting on Monday, and we all were laughing most of the time. You know, it's people, so it's not perfect, and there's always going to be, I don't believe in utopia or any of that stuff. It's real. There's going to be conflicts, so you have to have a real sound conflict resolution. We start with a pretty simple process where they have to first talk to each other before they start complaining to anybody else. And then it goes to the next level, and then the next level, and pretty soon we have a group that can make a decision. And it's never gotten there. 90% of the time, it's done when they talk to each other. So, but do you have people living in the new project? Yes, quite a
still
few.
in development.
Yeah, there's 10 houses built so far. Half of them, or 6 out of 10 of them, have permanent residents, and there's a whole bunch more houses that are starting now and this summer.
So I'm living in Canada, and I want to go down and live in your village. What's the issue with residency? How does that work?
There's 3 ways to get residency that are standard for somebody who's buying in. One is rentista, which means you got to put 60 grand in a bank account here, and you can draw off of that 60 grand. And then after a year, you top it off, and then your temporary residency can go to a permanent residency. The other one is called inversionista, which means you invest $200,000 or more into a company in Costa Rica. And the other one is pensionado, which means you can show that you have $1,200 a month coming in through retirement pay, maybe from the service or Social Security.
Okay. All right. Well, it's funny. I just got a question from the chat room, and I was going to be heading in that direction. In terms of outlay of money, what are we looking at to say the first development versus the second development? Is it about the same cost to get in on this great eco village?
It's similar. Let me see. The first one, Osamon Village, which is set up to be a resort hotel and an eco village, is you can get in there for around $100,000 for a 1-bedroom kind of condo, or we call them villas. And it's a little more expensive. It's a little further along. The infrastructure, the pool, the bar, and the restaurant, the gardens, it's all done, and it's absolutely beautiful. Serenity Gardens Eco Village, the lots are a ½ acre or more, and we've got thousands of fruit trees planted. We've got our community center about 80% finished. Those lots are $55,000, and people can build homes in those on those lots for as little as $25,000 on up to whatever you want to do.
So, and $25,000. This is built by local laborers, right? This is not.
Yes, local labor. Now, the good news for us is ever since the crash, there are amazing construction workers here that are high quality. A lot of them lived in New Jersey and in Canada and the United States, and they've come home because it's a lot better here, in my opinion. And now we can find great labor for a better cost. This is supply and demand. There aren't as many people building, but there's more people that know how to build.
So a lot of the Costa Ricans who are working in the U.S. and Canada have returned home because the jobs have gone bye-bye because of the housing crash.
That's exactly right. Many have come home, and they've come home with a bundle of money that they made up north, and they're living well.
Okay. So are you creating income on the first property with this tourism business?
Well, yeah, some income. Our goal is to create a lot more income. We've got the longest Superman line in the world. We've got a canopy tour that everybody just loves, and it's called OSA Canopy Tour. And we've got a lot of other infrastructure for more businesses. Our second property, the Serenity Gardens Eco Village, our main focus is education, and we've created a school called WISE, the World Institute for Sustainability and Education. And that's taken on by a guy named Frank White, and he is focused and committed. It's going to be an absolutely amazing school.
So that's going to be functioning on the grounds of the second Eco Village. WISE.
That's correct. And this is really interesting how this works. we donated the land to the business, and the business pays us a part of the profits. It pays to our company, which our goal is to wipe out dues. Right now, the dues are $95 a month, and our goal is to have profit centers come in that cover the dues.
Okay, so those dues are going to you hopefully go away because you're going to be making money teaching people. You're going to create like a permaculture school on site. Is that kind of the idea?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and eco-village design and all that kind of stuff. Because this is a common aspect of eco-villages, is that they run permaculture schools out of them as a way of supporting themselves.
They have to be sustainable economically as well as with food and energy. And it's so critical to set up the economic structure right off the bat.
Now, you also mentioned that you've got some alternative energy going there. Is there anything other than solar going down there?
Well, there's solar. We have created plans to do hydro because we've got a really beautiful river running through the middle of our property. And right now, the Costa Rican government is in the middle of trying to figure out how that will work. And the ISE, the electric company, has a little bit of a monopoly here. Now, here's an interesting fact about Costa Rica. Over the last 100 days, I think they've had 81 days or 90 days in a row of alternative energy, totally renewable energy. So as a country, it's already on renewable energy.
So is it mainly solar they're using?
It's actually a combination. I would say it's mainly hydro, and now they've got a lot of wind plants, and then solar would probably be a distant third. But for our community, solar is probably number one. It is number one.
Wow. So, but you aren't using solar on the.
We are using solar as our primary, and then we're testing wind right now. We don't think we have 12 miles an hour sustained, which is what you need to have a functional wind system. So we're doing solar, and then we're eventually going to go water too, if the government makes it easier for us to do so.
Mike, you can do micro water? Is that what you're trying to do on site?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so the government is trying to create a bit of a monopoly, you're saying, around the utility use, and saying, well,
not trying. They've had a monopoly for many decades, I think.
Oh, okay. So they're not in favor of micro hydro development.
They're not making it easy, that's for sure.
And how are they making it difficult? Through regulation and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because the waterways here are sacred, and they should be. But what they're doing is saying you can't touch the river. You can't put anything in the river unless we give you approval. Well, they don't want to give us approval because that takes money out of their pockets. Now, the idea, though, of solar, now Tesla's new battery is absolutely, I think, a game changer. And I hope it is anyway. So with that
talk about that a bit. What do you know about the Tesla battery? Obviously, Mr. Tesla didn't make it, but somebody's created this battery called Tesla.
If he did, he's come back from the dead. That guy, he's amazing, I think. So anyway, I think they created a battery. I think it's $3,500 for a 7 kW storage, which in Costa Rica, most of the year, you can do 100% renewable energy just off of solar using that battery for a fairly low price. And their batteries are guaranteed for 10 years. So it's a really good system, I think.
So this battery would be suitable for one home? Or that would be...
Absolutely, especially if the home has LED lights and a gas stove. Easily, one battery would run a whole home.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you've got... You're saying it does rain a fair bit there, but you still get a lot of sun.
Yeah, in the rainy season, most mornings are sunny until noon, and then it pours, and then it opens up again.
Okay. So you're trying to go off the grid, but in the event that you can't, you still got the fairly, is it cheap, the power there, or is it expensive compared to the U.S.?
It's a neat system. Instead of the cost going down the more you use, the cost goes up. So the first tier is, I don't know the KW pricing, but it's only, most Costa Ricans only spend between $15 and $25 a month for energy. But if you go over that first tier, the price doubles. And then if you go to the third tier, it goes up another 50%.
Yeah. So they encourage you to use less and pay a lot less.
That's correct. Because when you get to that second and third tier, it's really expensive.
But they don't have smart meters down there, I hope?
No.
Another plus, I'll tell you, all the pluses are adding up for Costa Rica, I'll tell you. Now, the other thing that our friend Bruce is down there, and he's told me that there's no geoengineering down there, and you confirm that. You don't see streams of particulates in the sky.
I've been aware of that now for the last few years, and I've never seen it.
I'm super jealous.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation up here in North America.
Yep.
And everywhere, really.
I went out today, and I thought, oh, God, look at the sky's clear. As soon as I say that, man, it's like magic. They just come, oh, no, there's one. You know, and some days I see 15. But today was a light day, but still, I mean.
37 here one time in 1 hour.
Whoa.
Yeah, unbeliable.
Yep. Oh, you counted them, eh? 37.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, no, it's not that dense here. The most I've seen in a day is 15. But, of course, I mean, I'm looking for a couple hours. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. So they say they spray even more when the clouds are up, when you can't see them.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, eventually people are going to figure it out. So they're trying to hide it as best they can. So that's a huge advantage. Now, I'm sure that the effects of this stuff are still getting there to some extent. But the fact that they're not spraying would lower the dosage of aluminum oxide and barium, strontium, and who knows what. I was listening to another show on the station. They say they're spraying they're releasing fungi everywhere too.
And I've heard blood platelets as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you. But so you're saying, Jim, the food there grows well if you have the right nutrients in the soil. You don't have issues with fungus and that kind of stuff in the plants?
There's a solution for every problem. In fact, the problem is the solution in permaculture. If you have a certain thing, you observe and you put that problem to use. It's like if you have a June bug problem in your garden, then you have a duck deficiency because ducks eat June bugs, and ducks are a good thing for your system, and you can eat ducks. So it's a really neat system about taking whatever is there and making the most of it. And it always works. It is found to always work with quite a bit of observation.
So have you done any courses in permaculture, or are you just learning from others?
I am kind of a self-taught. I have done many, many courses, but none of them official. I go online, YouTube, and I spend hours and hours and days and weeks and months studying stuff. And then I put it to use and see how it works. And sometimes it's terrible, and sometimes it works awesome.
Yeah, actually, can we give out your YouTube channels?
Yeah, let me see. Jim Gale YouTube. I don't know.
It's one is youtube.com/Jim P. Gale, I think. Gale. That's the one I found. Jim P. Gale is the one I found. I don't know about Jim, but so Jim Gale, Gale, Costa Rica, and they should be able to find you. Yes.
Okay, and then I'm looking up. My other one says Jim Gale. Anyway, I'll find it before we're done.
Okay.
Throw them in the chat box on the next break. It's coming up pretty soon, so then we can get it out to the people.
Gotcha.
That'd be great. Because that's a huge. I mean, a lot of people, especially listening to our network, are very concerned about geoengineering because it's the one thing that it's hard to compensate for. I mean, you can eat organic and you can grow your food indoors and whatnot, but we all have to breathe air. We haven't gone around that one. And if it's everywhere in the environment, I had the worst cold I've ever had this winter, and I'm pretty healthy, and I just couldn't shake it. And I mean, it was just such an irritating thing to have. I guess I'm spoiled because I'm healthy all the time, but I mean, it's affecting everyone's being affected by this stuff. The respiratory illnesses are off the charts.
That's amazing. My family went home for the first time in 5 years. My daughter has never seen snow, and we went to Minnesota. Every one of us got sick. My daughter the least, but my wife and I was sick for a month. I'm not sick. I'm never sick. It was the worst cold. And every single person I talked to, from Minnesota to Chicago to California, had a similar version of the same thing. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I call it the geoengineering flu. And it's just your body just gets overwhelmed with particulates, and especially for me, I already have sinuses that are a bit messed up because one of my tubes going up there is undersized. It's just a genetic defect. So any of that kind of stuff just drives me nuts. I'm a bit allergic to dust. But, I luckily I had a guy named Dr. John Apsley. He actually gave me some tips offline, certain things to use, so it helped. But these guys today, I was listening. They're on the network, and they're saying they're releasing fungus and stuff too. So, I mean, living in an area of the world where they're not geoengineering is to me is a huge plus, an absolutely incredible positive.
It really feels good down here. I don't know much about geoengineering. I'm just glad it's not here, to my knowledge.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you got the downside of it when you went up back home, eh? So you still visit the U.S. on occasion?
Yeah, I do. A couple times a year.
Okay, because you got family here.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's here full time. My mom's there, and a lot of friends too.
You're going to coax them down there to Costa Rica soon, I bet.
Oh, a lot of them have already come.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about relocating there eventually too. I just, I definitely want to know that there's, some type of conveniences for me nearby. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will do the whole eco village thing when it comes up, but in the meantime, I wouldn't mind some room service. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. The town of San Isidro is absolutely amazing. There's 100,000 people in the valley. There's a movie theater. It's small enough where I feel safe walking around town center at 12 at night or 1, but it's amazing. I think you'd love it. You should come check it out.
I definitely will. And just so you know, we're heading up to a break, but we have been joined by the one, the only Bruce McDonald, and so I thought I'd let you guys know in case you weren't looking at the call.
No, I just noticed him. I think he's okay. I see him now. I think Bruce, are you there?
Yes. Greetings, people of Earth.
All right, Bruce. Okay, well, we'll bring you in after the break. Okay? All right, folks. So, but you said you got this resort going on the first project, right? So Angela could go there if she wanted to live, high for a few days. Room service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
And there's all sorts of. I mean, just because you live in an eco-village doesn't mean you have to stay there 365 days a year. I mean, you can still go around and do stuff.
Exactly. And the internet's awesome. I mean, the internet's really good in the middle of the jungle, which is shocking to me when I think about it. And you can get there's no Starbucks, but there's a lot of other good stuff.
You can start your own Starbucks.
You probably could.
They're getting their coffee beans from Costa Rica.
No doubt about it. And Bruce says they have the best coffee in the world in Costa Rica as well.
I've heard that many times. I'm starting to become an addict myself.
Oh, yeah? So you like the coffee down there too?
Yeah, I do once a day, and it makes a big difference. Right after lunch. I love it.
All right. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, we'll bring Bruce McDonald in after the break, and you're listening to I'm Nature, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Welcome back to I Am Nature. I'm your host, Brian Porter. This is the last segment of the show, and we've got Jim Gale here, Village developer, and he's also got a new business going. Tell us a bit about that, Jim, your business dehydrating food.
Okay, we have a business that's called Costa Rica Naturales, and it is about we've taken shipping containers and we've turned them into dehydrating food processing centers. Our primary heat source or energy source is solar energy, which is very easy, and anybody can go online and look up how to create a solar mini food dehydrator. The neat thing is we've taken that technology, biodigester technology, and some new technology, which would be solar panels and something like Tesla's new battery. And we are, you can go anywhere in the world, you can put these units up. That's part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle, which is really exciting, is our connections with distributors. We've got distributors all over the U.S. and potentially China as well that will take our product because they're in desperate need, in the U.S. and China, of healthy, nutrient-rich food. And we're really excited about it. It's going to go global over the next 5 years.
Well, I know. I read a story the other day about how they can't grow enough organic food for the demand in the U.S.
Exactly.
And that's importing a lot. So this is, yeah, you're in the right spot for that kind of business. I like that.
It's really neat. If anybody wants to start a business, they should definitely get a hold of me. And if they want to be independent, off the grid, this is the business. And it's all about local food production. That solves so many of our problems. Creating food locally, sending it to the dehydrating processing plant. I can't tell you how excited I am about it.
Well, how many types of food are you dehydrating now? What's your main product line?
Okay, we're starting with pineapples, mangoes, bananas, plantains, and then we're going to be going into some curcumin or turmeric and ginger and creating a mix there. It's all incredibly healthy stuff. But the cool thing is about our system is it can dehydrate anything from veggies to fish and chicken and beef.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I've never heard of one of those before. Okay,
Yeah,
well, let's do a shout out to Bruce McDonald. He's a guest here right now. How you doing, Bruce?
I'm good. Hi, Jim. Hi, Brian. Hi, Angela.
Aloha.
Hi, Bruce.
Hey.
Hi.
Nice to have you on the show. Do you have any? I'm sure you have some questions for Jim.
No. Jim and I have spoken once, and I've read most of his website. And but that's it's a great thing he's got going on. He's a little bit south of me. It's an incredible value for getting into the Costa Rican market. I mean, if you want to go on your own and just come down here and buy a house, going through an eco village or an area that has 60 homes and is growing its own food is the way to go. I mean, and Jim, I cannot believe, as I heard you say in the first hour, that people actually complain that they might have to get a mango out of a tree or something. I mean, that send them to the grocery store. It's about 15 or 20% more expensive now in Costa Rica than it is in North America.
Yep, and you've got something going too, Bruce. I love what you're doing up there. That's it's going to be pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, we're going all primitive. Like the electricity stops about 3 kilometers down the mountain, and our only neighbors are the Bribri Indians, the canton of Talamanca, if you want to Google map it. And they're actually working on my land now. They're going to be part of my construction crew, and they're cutting a bunch of wood. My project is going to be a little bit different, and first and foremost, in that it's off grid. Looking at the pictures at Serenity, you can the power lines are going in there. It's like a full normal Costa Rican living arrangement, except food is part of the package as well. And when you factor that in, if you come down here and you're 58 or 62 and you retire and you're going to be here for 20 or 25 years, you can't get a better deal than that. I mean, you can't. I think more and more people, especially under the baby boomers, are going to be looking for a retirement package that is sort of all inclusive, so that they can, offset costs, and food and lodging and power, off grid power are big parts of that. Yeah, but we're
Bruce,
going. Go ahead.
If I had to do it again, I would do exactly what you're doing. We would not spend the money to bring in the grid. There's a lot of things that have changed even in the last 4 or 5 years, and I think going off grid nowadays is really a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. There's something I wanted to say to you. This you'll understand this. I don't think Brian or Angela will, but we just got a dispensation, my wife and I, from SINAC, the animal conservation people here. We're allowed to do a pig hunt because the Bribri have allowed their pig stocks to get out of control, and they're tormenting the local farmers near the top of the mountain, of which ours is the first they tear through. So if you want to hook up with me and go for a pig hunt and gratis, free, I have a crossbow for you, and we'll get a nice 90-kilogram one, and you can take 150 pounds of meat back with you if you want.
And you can dehydrate it too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Sounds amazing.
Isn't that what bacon is? Dehydrated pork? Kidding. But I agree with everything Jim said about this country. There's just something magical about this place. You can't lay words to it, and that's quite a thing for me to say, because I love to lay words to things, but I just can't get a sentence around it. It's a mystery, but there's something special about living here.
I can.
Your chemistry and your biology changes. The water is largely untreated in a lot of the. I live in Atenas right now, which is hyper expensive. You want to buy a lot here to give you a relative value of what Jim's offering. You're going to pay about $80 per square meter for a lot in Atenas, and Grecia, and even more in Palmeiras now. And these are like traditional Costa Rican villages, and they're fairly close to the San Jose or the Alajuela airport. So, and there's a lot of expats here. A lot of expats. They come and they buy houses. You talk to them, any of them, over coffee, and if they've been here 10 years, and you explain what you're doing, they'd say, if I were coming in now, I'd go your way, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Bruce, you mentioned the words to describe Costa Rica. I think the best words are pura vida. And that's the mantra in Costa Rica that every Costa Rican that I know uses every day, multiple times a day. And it means pure life. It's like going to Hawaii and having the aloha spirit. Well, here they have a pura vida spirit. And it's a beautiful mantra that filters through into their culture in ways that are palpable.
Yeah, Pura Vida is the national pastime. Getting back to the business and people who are listening to Jim and interested in taking him up on his prospect, there's a few kinds of residential development. You're either going to buy a house off a Tico, or you're going to go into a lot of people who come. They want to go into a community where there are going to be other expatriates because they may not want to learn Spanish. Or I think it's a mistake. I've gone the same path as Jim. I've married a Tica, and I'm nestled in, surrounded by brother. In the town I live in, I can't but trip over a relative, a cousin, a nephew. My wife comes from a family of 9 kids. So, but a lot of people when they come, so what you have other than the eco villages is you'll have these land developers come in and do these gated communities, and you want to go online and look at what they're selling for now. And then on top of that, you have your electricity bill, you have your food bill, you have everything. And we're talking Costa Rica now. In a lot of ways, if you want to go into a gated community, it's more expensive than probably 35 of the U.S. states on a square footage purchase value basis. Yeah, it's really expensive now. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like the time to get in is in the next few years.
Yeah, what do you think, Jim? Do you think Costa Rica's going to max out and hit a price ceiling, and everyone's going to say, okay, that Costa Rica's maxed out, let's go to Nicaragua or Panama?
Well, I just sold a piece of land in Nicaragua. Actually just got the deposit in like yesterday, and I'm so glad I did. Nicaragua is great if you are all about price. But if you're about other qualities that lead to a good life, I like Costa Rica a lot better. I kind of think it's bottomed out because I think it maxed out in 2006, and it got crushed in 2007 and 8. And Costa Rica is a lagging index. It's not like Miami or Vegas, where overnight those places went down by 40, 50, 60%. Here, it took years because most people weren't thinking about the lot that they owned in Costa Rica that they paid $180,000 for. They were thinking about their home and paying their mortgage. So they didn't really mess with their price down here. And now, over the last, I'd say since 2008, the values went down and down and down in a lot of places. And just now, in the last 6 months, they're starting to come up again, and there's a lot of buyers coming, international buyers.
Yeah. So how would you describe the expat who comes here, Jim? And there's Americans, Canadians, a significant enough Germans to say Germans come here.
It's such a diversity. The people in our communities are so diverse. We've got very religious people and very scientific people. We've got very Democratic and very Republican people. I can't put my finger on it. Diversity is the only way to explain it.
And what percentage, Jim, are people who are living there full time versus running around?
You know what? I have one other explaining factor. Most of our buyers have a sense, whether it be intuitive or through their eyes and ears, that the economy is going to fail in one way or another, whether it be peak oil or soil problems or water. That's the kind of the linking element with our buyers. And Brian, I'm sorry, what was that question?
Yeah, well,
Oh, sorry, Brian. There is a Brian.
Yeah, no, I asked him about the extent to which people are living there full time versus using it as a cottage.
I'd say it's 20% in the first village at Osa Mountain Village, and it's 50% in Serenity Gardens Eco Village.
Okay, so you're getting more people who are going to live there on a fairly long-term basis in the second development.
Yes, the majority are going to live there full time sooner than later in the second development. And again, most of those people think they're getting out at the right time.
Right. Are there any? Do they have any ways of getting there? Any special? Are there any? You'd probably know this because you're dealing with these people all the time. The people who are concerned about the economy collapsing or whatnot in the U.S. Are there any services being developed to help people get out of the U.S. in the event that there's a huge collapse?
There are not services that are offered to the public, but there are people I know in Florida with boats. And there are people I know with planes that want to get themselves down here. But there's nothing that's more broad scale that I know of.
So you're just saying individual people with resources are going to try to get out in the event that they need to.
That's right.
Yeah. I was thinking, sailing down there would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Pacific coast all the way down to Colombia, I hear is a really good sail. There's a lot of Ticos who will sail to Colombia, and it's much quicker by water than it is by land, actually, to get to Colombia.
Yep.
Oh, I bet. So, just getting back to this new business you're in, Jim, this dehydrating business. How's that going? How is that being developed? Like, how many of these converted trailers do you have going?
We have 3 going right now. We're just starting. We know the principles. The science is rock solid behind them. We're actually drying our first food here in 3 weeks. We've done samples. One of our partners has been doing it and teaching it for 3 decades. His dad, actually, and he's been, as a son, kind of learning and helping with the teaching process. And so we're just starting, but we've got a solid plan. One of our partners from the U.S. is a very, very well-known guy, very political. In fact, a lot of your buyers would know him, but I don't want to bring up his name online. I can talk to you afterwards about it. Interesting history, and he's senator's son. He and some other folks with a lot of money think that this is going to be an international business within 18 months.
Wow.
Nice
well,
job.
I mean, it's pretty clear to me that, I mean, I was in a Whole Foods the first time. We don't all have that many in Canada, but they have one in the other city I'm there a fair bit is Ottawa. They just put one in there. I couldn't believe it. I mean, these stores are fantastic, and people love them. And this is the direction that the consumer's going in. I mean, in the U.S. especially, finally they've caught on. They say, I think I heard 40% of people now are trying to eat organic in the U.S.
Yep, the market's going up by 18% a year, scheduled out through 2020, and there's no end in sight. But there's so many overlapping benefits to this. The off-grid nature of it is, I think, huge. In fact, people on this show, the value, imagine if you're the only one who's got a food dehydrator in a town of 30 or 50,000 people, and the economy does go to heck. You've got an asset there that you can use for barter and trade and really be living well, relatively speaking.
Yeah, Jim, do you keep meat stocks on your eco villages?
Fish and chicken.
We
have enclosure. We have goats as well, but they're for milk. And we have pig enclosures that we're no longer using. We've also done rabbits, which we will do again because they're the number one land protein. But fish and chicken are the easiest.
What happened with the pigs?
People didn't want to kill pigs anymore. We had some folks that were very against it, and that was okay. At the time, if it ever needs to be that we have more pigs, we will have more pigs.
Yeah. There's so it's another thing I'm getting my head around is when I'm living in Matina, Siquirres, and well, I'm a vegetarian, but my wife and my stepson, they eat meat, and there's just this. It's starting to dawn on me, however slow I am, that there's going to be a lot of killing. There's just like you can't. And I've been an urban guy my whole life, and I mean like killing in every way. Like I got to do something about that 3-foot high anthill. I've got to kill 100,000 ants or something. You know, there's just, when you're working with land, there's no room for this, like, don't hurt a leaf on a tree kind of thing. It's more like the biblical, you are the steward of the land. And, you know, the fact that I have a conscience about it and I'm thinking about it is, I guess, good, but there's just, and, you know, most people who eat meat in the Western world, they don't consider this, that animal has to be harvested. That animal has to be killed.
Yep.
Yeah. Chickens are one thing, but like a big mammal, like a pig or something like that, you know, it's something else.
Yeah, it sure is.
Jim, are you looking for business partners for your dehydrating business, or for any of your eco villages?
Absolutely. We're always looking to talk to people who are interested in sharing the growth of all that. I love collaboration, and I love working with people in general. Now, I've learned a lot of tough lessons about that as well. So I'm a lot more picky than I used to be. But yes, we always are looking for people to be business partners and help us grow.
Okay. That's good, because some of our listeners might be interested in that too. So, but it sounds to me like this dehydration business, you want to go like beyond Costa Rica. You want to try to get people doing this locally within their communities, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, we've created a model that can go anywhere, and we are creating a business network, a distribution network, and a brand that will be known. And here's the cool part: by doing volume, and this is where the mortgage company, I learned so much. Our volume was so much higher than anybody else entering the market with our same model that nobody, you know, it was better to work with us. It's better to work together. So that's where we're going. We're going for big volume so we can get discounts on everything. Instead of ordering 10 solar panels, which might cost, you know, $6,000, we're going to order 100,000 of them, so it might cost $3,000, and so on.
Yeah, I might want to piggyback on some of your purchases, if that's okay.
Yes, that is. We'll figure that out.
Get into that economy of scale, as they talk about at the Reserve.
Yeah, economies of scale.
You know, Jim, I was talking to Jim about networking with other projects, other eco villages. It'd be a good thing to do, because we all gotta have to work together at some point. Just to survive what's coming. And the more connected we are, and the more friendly we are, the better we know each other, and the more history we have with each other, the better.
So I just want to ask Jim a few metrics questions and draw on his experience and expertise. So in a functioning eco-village, with the meat stocks you're talking about, tilapia and chicken, what's the maximum number of people you could have on 1 hectare?
Oh, you know what? I don't know that number, but I do know another number. We've got a guy named the Hinson Homestead. If you look up online, you can see me doing videos with Todd Hinson. Their house, their half acre of land, can support between 8 and 10 people every meal. Wow. So you can kind of scale that out and see. It's amazing. Now, and that's not, according to what you and I were talking about the other day, that's not even close to totally max. That's probably using maybe 20%.
Yeah, I have a permaculture consultant. The man is an expert. He's worked as a relief consultant for missionaries and Christian missionaries all over the world, and he's a former soldier. And he says it's all vertical gardening now. You build up with, you know, everything is done in boxes like potatoes, and apparently above ground gardening is a lot easier in a lot of parts of the world. But you know, the numbers I'm hearing are just staggering. And another guest that Brian had on his show was doing some research in Newfoundland, a cold part of Canada, and he's talking about astronomical numbers per acre, like, you know, feed 100 people by an acre, which I find astounding. But I'm just sort of getting my feet wet in the whole permaculture thing.
Well, I got Tim Butts coming on next week, Bruce. You're gonna love him, because he's got a system that's supposedly the most efficient in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, food. It's indoors, greenhouse. Okay, Jim, you know what? We're getting near the end of the show. I want to make sure people can contact you if they want to. So let's get your contacts information out there again, Jim.
Okay, my email is best. I'm very accessible, and I usually respond within 10 to 30 minutes, and it's jimpgale@gmail.com. JIM, P is in Patrick, Gale is GALE @gmail.
All right. Do you want to put your Skype name out there, or is that too confidential?
Yeah, I'll start with email, and then I'll go to Skype.
Okay.
So, yeah, have them email. Anybody who wants to, please email me. Love to hear from you. And we'll go from there.
Okay. And your pricing on your new location is, again, how much was it? $25,000 for a house and $100,000 for land?
No, you can have a house on a half acre of land with many fruit trees included and a share of the company that owns all the common area, including the community center and some of the businesses that are on site. And that you can have the whole package for under $100,000.
Under 100.
That's a really good deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic. And you'll get the best food, or as good a food as you'll find anywhere on the planet. This is exciting, Jim. Thanks so much for your great work, Jim. It sounds like we're going to get bumped off.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, Bruce, and Angela, for all that you do, and hope to be on again someday.
Okay, Jim. Okay, great chatting with you, and we'll keep in touch for sure.
All right, ciao for now.
Thanks, Bruce and Angela. I love you all.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio.
Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leap the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions, seen and unseen, connected with planet Earth, to let us go beyond our known potential into the greatest unknown golden age the universes and worlds and all planets have ever experienced.
Kathy teaches the spiritual truth so that you may create a better life and be able to make positive changes for yourself and for the planet. She helps us remember that we are not powerless, but very creative spiritual beings having an Earth experience. Time to quantum leap into the age of divine enlightenment and let Kathy provide you with the tools of knowledge you need to awaken spiritually. That's the Quantum Leap Show. Let Light Unite every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio Studio B.